Hello again, I am Steph, Ginger Jeep, and this is Because Why Not? So as I've mentioned, I do a lot of dehydrating. I've got a little pile here of some of the stuff I've dehydrated, and I'm gonna make some lunch. So people ask, you've got all these separate things dehydrated. So I've got rice, black beans, spinach, peas. A while ago I picked up this pack of freeze-dried stuff. So I've got some freeze-dried here as well. On my bucket list of wish list of things to get is an actual home freeze dryer. Maybe this summer? But I've got some freeze-dried red peppers, jalapeno peppers, chicken, corn, and then some tomatoes from my garden this summer that I dehydrated, and some freeze-dried onions. So, gonna show how I can throw all this together for a little meal. In this little cup here, I already have a teaspoon of corn, a teaspoon of spinach, and a teaspoon of black beans. I've got a pot of water here, about a cup-ish. I generally don't measure. I am using an actual teaspoon measuring spoon here, but sometimes I just go, yeah, that looks good. Couple of peas. And we'll see how much this makes and what it turns out like. About a teaspoon of corn. Need some couple pieces of red pepper. So they're longer pieces. Again, they're nice and fluffy, really sweet, almost fluffy spongy. And I'm gonna just break it up into a couple pieces. Add a little jalapeno. Little sprinkle. This is freeze-dried chicken. I know since the whole pandemic started, a lot of these like freeze-dried emergency type meals and ingredients have the prices have just gone off the charts. I got these items before the pandemic. So freeze-dried chicken, it's a little styrofoamy, but it's really dry like this. But when I've added it to stuff like this before, or soups, it soaks up the moisture and becomes really juicy and tender. And you never know that it was dried beforehand. Same with a lot of my dehydrated stuff. If you wouldn't be able to tell the difference if it was fresh vegetables or, vegetables you got from the freezer. A little pinch of onions. And those were freeze-dried onions. And these, whoa, almost dropped the lid. These are tomatoes from my garden that I dehydrated. So this is a piece of a whole big tomato, sliced, and then, oh, that's another, I think that was a whole tomato. And then these are cherry tomatoes that I sliced in half and then dehydrated. So it's very much like sun-dried tomatoes. They're great to snack on, just like that. Or, again, grab a little pinch And I'm going to put them in. So my water's coming back up to a boil here. And so I've got, I think this is a 1/4 cup of stuff total. No, that's 1/3 of a cup. But whatever. And yeah, that's what it looks like. So you just stir it around, let it get all nice and wet. And we are just going to let that soak up. So as you can see, about all those ingredients for one person just barely covers the bottom of this tiny pot. I plan to be able to do this in like a jet boil as well, out camping, or as I mentioned, I'm in the military. If I keep this up, I don't plan to ever eat an IMP again if I can bring some of my dehydrated ingredients with me. Alright, so it was up to a boil, and we're just going to let this rehydrate. So it's, you can see that, it's 1:03. I'm just going to pause for a bit to let that cook. Everything looks fairly well replumped up and delicious. So if you looked at that, would you think it was dried? No. No. Very yummy. It smells great. And then this is just kind of a creamy chicken soup base, cream sauce base, whatever. And I'm just going to add, again, I think I might do 2 teaspoons. Generally, I don't measure. I just happen to actually grab a measuring teaspoon. And like I said, I generally start with enough water to cover everything. And that seems to be good for reconstituting, rehydrating most dehydrated items. So because the rice was pre-cooked, the beans were pre-cooked, and then dehydrated, it doesn't take very long to rehydrate at all. By the time if you put it in cold water, you can just let it sit for an hour or 2, and everything will be nice and reconstituted. You can then microwave it or heat it up somehow, put it in a pot to heat. Or you can heat it as you reconstitute it, rehydrate it. There's lots of ways to do it. If you know you're going to have it the night before, or say I wanted this for dinner, I'd start it a few hours earlier, put everything together, and that cover in warm water, let it sit, and then just heat and serve. So lots of veggies, some cream sauce, some rice, some beans. It's good because why not? So good. The rice is nice and soft. The beans, even the bigger kidney beans, are nice and soft, cooked through. That chicken is nice and plump. Same with the dehydrated tomatoes, like sun-dried tomatoes. Again, if I fed this to you, I wish I could. It smells so good. You would not be able to know that it was all dehydrated, dried, good to go. So if you get into dehydrating meals, whether it be for prepping, camping, hiking, or just to have on hand, don't overthink it. You don't need to overthink it. Throw a little this, throw a little that, cover in water, heat, you're good to go.